Hey folks, welcome back to Mark Ellie Farm. We're in the kitchen again today. It's that time of year the garden is going crazy, so we're doing a lot of canning. So you'll see some more canning videos going on here on the channel right now because we got to get this stuff done. So today we've picked our jalapenos. We've got about 2 pounds of jalapenos we're going to be dealing with, and we're going to do them 2 different ways, and we'll be canning them. So half of them we're going to do just a regular pickled jalapeno and some vinegar, kind of like you would buy at the store to put on like nachos or whatever. And then we're going to do some candied jalapenos as well, which is a really good condiment to have to put on different stuff. It's a kind of a sweet heat type deal. Brandy's wanting us to go outside. It's too hot out there. Too hot to go outside right now. Watch what she does when we open the door. You want to go outside? Huh? How come you're not jumping like you usually do? Huh? There you go. You want to go outside? Huh? Yeah? You want to go outside? Sorry, I didn't mean to get her excited. I'm going to let her outside and she's going to want right back in pretty quick. So let me get these jalapenos sliced up and we'll continue with the process here in a little bit. Alright, we got the tops cut off of our jalapenos. And as tough as hands as I got from, working out in the shop and all that stuff, I don't need to wear gloves when I handle jalapenos. But you may want to wear gloves if you got more tender hands. But even if you have, rougher hands like me where it doesn't bother you, I highly recommend you wash your hands before you touch your eyes or go to the bathroom. You don't want to be touching your eyes and your face or your mommy daddy parts with jalapeno on your hands for sure. We're going to use this food chopper. Reason being, I found when I eat this stuff, the rings are a little cumbersome. So I'm going to make kind of more of a relish consistency with it. So it's easier to use as a condiment, say on a hot dog or something like that. It's easier to kind of spread over the top. The rings get kind of clumsy. So we're going to grind this up. So I'm hoping that I don't have the same experience that I had when I tried to do some horseradish in the food processor, where it just absolutely run me out of the house. I had to come in and open all the windows and air the house out for like a half hour before I could even come back in. So hopefully these jalapenos won't have that same issue going on. You'll know when I come back whether I had that issue. So we're going to grind up our jalapenos. Again, that's about 2 pounds of jalapenos, and I did 1 medium to large white onion. And we're going to grind all that up together. We'll be back. We'll see if we're crying or not. Well, we had a happy ending. Well, I don't want to say happy ending because I get excited about food, but not that excited. We had a happy outcome. This did not run us out of the kitchen. Actually got more kind of teary over the onions than the jalapenos when I was cutting the onions. So, yeah, it's safe to do in the kitchen apparently because we got it all ground up. So, a little trick with a food chopper or a grinder. You know how a little bit of your material or meat or whatever you're grinding stays behind the plate right there? A good little trick is grab an ice cube, throw an ice cube down the chute, and when that grinds up that ice cube, it pushes out most of whatever's left in there. So like I said, I'm going to weigh this out and we're going to split it in half and then we'll be back. So we've got 2 pounds, 15 ounces, and just 15.1 ounces, I guess. But 216 would be 3 pounds, obviously. So we're going to weigh half of this back in here, which would be 1 pound, about 7.5 ounces. And we'll get it split up, and then we can start doing our 2 different recipes. I failed to mention when we ground this, I used the biggest, largest die on the food chopper. You don't want to get this stuff too small. So just use the biggest one you got. So if you've never used one of these digital food scales before, they're really handy. You put the bowl back on here that you want to use, and you hit the 0 button, or if it's off, you just hit the power button, it'll automatically 0. So now you're not weighing the container, you're only weighing what you put back in it. Now, I told you it was hot out there. You never listen, do you? Okay, we have our jalapeno mixture split up into two different pans. It is the same amount, it just looks different because the pan sizes are different. But because this one over here is bigger, we're going to do our candied jalapenos in this pot over here. And my recipe usually calls for a ½ pound of the jalapenos and whatever else you mix together. But we ended up with a 1½ pound, so I'm just going to triple my recipe. So you can go up or down, whatever you want to do. But since there's more ingredients in this recipe, we're going to do it in this pot. So to this 1½ pound mixture here, we're going to add 3 cups of sugar, 1½ cups of cider vinegar, 3 teaspoons of crushed red pepper, and that just gives another kind of flavor profile, so you don't just taste kind of one thing. Also 1½ teaspoons of turmeric and 1½ teaspoons of ground ginger. And we'll get this stirred up, and then we'll come back and tell you what you put into that pot. Now while we're measuring stuff, we need to talk about the elephant in the room for a minute. One of my biggest pet peeves is somebody measuring dry ingredients into one of these. That is a wet or liquid measurement cup. Reason being, you can't get a good measurement with one of these unless you're doing liquid, because liquid is self-leveling and you can read the line on the side of the jar. If you're doing something dry, you got all the whoop-de-doos in there and you're not going to get an even measurement. That's why this cup is used for dry ingredients, because you can fill it, wipe off the top, you got a perfect even amount, 1 cup of material. So don't drive me crazy and do it the other way. Now if you have something thick like butter, shortening, honey, something like that, that's where you'd want to use one of these. That plunger pushes your material right out of the cup, and you don't lose any in the cup. If you're trying to measure shortening into this thing, you got to try to scoop it back out of it. There is a little trick where you can spray that with vegetable oil and it slips right out, but buy you one of those, you'll love it. So now that my rant's over, let's get back to cooking. Another good helpful hint I realized when I was measuring this stuff in, I told you 3 teaspoons of the crushed red pepper. Well, 3 teaspoons is a tablespoon, so you don't have to sit there and put 3 teaspoons in. Just bust out a tablespoon. And your 1½ teaspoon, well, that's a half of a tablespoon. So if you have a ½ tablespoon measuring spoon, which most of us do that cook a lot, just use that. If you don't know your measurements that well and don't know how much goes into what, get you one of these little magnet thingies right here. It tells you what everything is. So if you look at the tablespoons, say you got a 1/4 cup of something, you come over here to tablespoons and it's 4 tablespoons. And it does that for ounces, teaspoons, tablespoons, milliliters, cups, pints, and quarts. So if you've scaled up one of your recipe and it calls for 16 tablespoons of something, you know that you can get away with a, what would it be, 4 times 4, 16, that would be a cup. So you could use a 1 cup measure instead of sitting there doing 16 tablespoons of something. So make sense? It'll make your life a lot easier. So we've got this stirred up, or everything measured in. So let's get it doing this one here. Now to this mixture we've added, again this is for just the regular pickled jalapenos. We've added 1 cup white vinegar, 1 cup of water, 2 cloves of garlic minced, but if your garlic is already minced, it would be about a tablespoon. And you're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt. And we've got that mixed in there. Both of these batches are ready to go. So we're going to put our stove on low, bring this up to a simmer real slowly, and then we're going to simmer it for about 5 minutes. And while that's coming up to temperature, we're going to get our water bath canner ready, and our jars ready, and our lids ready, because we're going to can this stuff up. Now, you can see this one is real green. This one's got some of those red pepper flakes in it. If you wanted to make a more colorful product, you could get some red pepper and throw in there, like a red bell pepper, yellow bell pepper, anything like that. Carrot even, you could grind carrot into it, and it would give you a little bit more color, and it'd be more attractive if you're giving it away. But I'm not here to make it attractive. I'm just here to make it good. So we're guessing it's going to take about 12 half-pint jars to can this up. So we're readying 12 jars. We got those in the canner, going to sterilize in there. Once that comes to a boil, we'll pull those out, dump them out. That also gives you kind of an idea where your water line needs to be. The water line here is probably maybe a ½ inch above the jars, but when we put full jars back in there, because we're going to dump the water out of those jars into the pot, it's going to raise the water line just a little bit. Now once we get those jars out and we start filling, we will take this little metal colander and we'll throw it in the pot, and that will sterilize our lids. And then we'll pull that out and we'll put the jars in once they're sealed. But we're going to get all this stuff simmering and we'll come back. You'll notice I got the exhaust fan on. Whenever you're doing canning, it's generally in the summer or the fall. It's hot outside, your AC's running like crazy. So it's a good idea to keep your exhaust fan on so all that steam goes out instead of warming your house up. Alright, we got our jars out. We placed our lid on our filling funnel in there. To get the jars out, just grab them with your little grabber and then just turn it sideways and the water dumps right out, and then put it on the counter. You can see I'm using my other grabber today because these are smallmouth jars. So this stuff is starting to heat up, starting to steam, so it won't be long when we'll be simmering. We're going to simmer these for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to start loading jars. When you load the jars, you want to use a slotted spoon because you want mainly jalapeno material, and fill the jars that way, and then we're going to top it up with the hot juice. Otherwise you'll have the jalapenos floating on top and you'll have a section of just juice on the bottom. So we're only going to put enough juice in those jars just to come up to the top of the jalapeno mix. We'll be back in a minute. So we've got 4 jars filled using the slotted spoon. After a while the slotted spoon doesn't pick up everything in the pot, so just get you a strainer, dump it in your hot water up here in the canner pot, sterilize it, drain your juice out of the pot, and then dump this back into the pot, and then you can get the rest into the jars. So now I'm going to take this juice and we're going to take with the pour spout and we're going to put just enough juice in that jar just to bring it up to the top of where the jalapenos are. So right there, we're going to leave about a 1/4 inch of head space, and that's what we're going to do with the rest of those jars. And then we'll wipe the tops, put the lids on them, and get them ready for the canner. So we got all our jars filled and we got them in the canner. Somebody that majors in the laws of physics, or maybe got like an engineering degree, maybe you could comment below and tell me why I got 4 jars of one and 3 of the other. It's one of the mysteries of the universe. So we're going to bring this back to a boil. We're almost there. And then we're going to process these for 15 minutes. Alright folks, 15 minutes is up. We pulled them out of the canner. We got the canner, we dumped it down the drain to keep that steam from coming into the house. Plus it'll, any grease in your drain, that'll boil it right out of there. But that's what we ended up with. This is the Cowboy candy over here. The jars need to be wiped off because got the hard water kind of sitting on it. So that's the recipe. Give it a shot. I think you'll like it. I use just the regular pickled jalapenos on tacos and such, and even on steak. I like it on steak, and I like both of them. As a matter of fact, on steak is really good. But try the Cowboy candy on steak. You'll really like that. So super easy. It's just water bath canning, folks. It's not that big a deal. Hope you don't get tired of our canning videos. I think the only thing, jar just sealed. The only thing we have left, I think, to can is the tomatoes once they come on. And we're going to just can those regular so we can turn them into anything when we open them up. But we'll see you back out here on Mark Kelly Farm. We love you guys. Stay safe. Stay healthy.